Late night at Mercy Haven Hospital in Boston. The fluorescent lights cast long shadows down sterile hallways as Mason Riley made his rounds. His security uniform, a size too large, hung on his lean frame as he checked each door with practiced precision. At 38, the former military medic moved with quiet purpose. His silver star, in 3 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, invisible beneath the plain navy jacket. Rain lashed against the windows. The worst New England storm in decades, transforming the city into a maze of flooded streets and howling wind. Mason's radio crackled to life. Incoming trauma, car accident near Longfellow Bridge, ETA 2 minutes. His pulse quickened, muscle memory from battlefield triage surfacing as he positioned himself near the emergency entrance. The ambulance siren wailed before its lights cut through the downpour, doors bursting open to reveal paramedics rushing a stretcher inside. On it lay a man in his mid-30s, designer suit torn and bloody, face ashen beneath rain-slicked hair. Male, severe impact, possible internal bleeding, BP dropping. A paramedic called out. The attending nurse looked panicked. "Doctor, Ramirez is stuck in traffic on Storrow Drive." Mason recognized the injured man instantly. Alexander Hart, CEO of Hart Technologies, whose face graced Boston's business journals monthly. Without hesitation, Mason stepping forward, years of combat medicine taking over. "I can help until the doctor arrives." The nurse hesitated. Mason's eyes remained steady. 3 tours as combat medic. Trust me. He moved with practiced efficiency, assessing vitals, applying pressure to stem bleeding. Alexander's eyes fluttered open, confusion and fear evident in his gaze. "Please," he whispered, voice barely audible. "Just make it fast. I don't want the pain." Mason locked eyes with him, voice calm and authoritative. "Not tonight, Mr. Hart. You're going to see the sunrise." Something in his tone made Alexander believe him as Mason stabilized his condition, talking in a steady rhythm to keep him conscious. When Dr. Ramirez finally arrived 9 minutes later, Alexander was stable. The doctor looked from the monitors to Mason in disbelief. "You did this." Mason stepped back, letting the medical team take over. As they wheeled Alexander towards surgery, his eyes sought Mason one last time, mouthing "thank you" before disappearing through swinging doors. Later, Mason collected his 8-year-old daughter Lily from the hospital cafeteria where she'd been completing her homework. "Ready to go home, sweetheart?" She smiled, showing the gap where her front tooth had been. "Did you save anyone tonight, Dad?" He simply ruffled her hair. Heroes didn't need headlines. They just needed to know someone would wake up tomorrow because of them. If you believe small acts of courage can change lives forever, subscribe to Hart Stories for more tales that remind us heroes walk among us every day. Alexander Hart awoke in a private suite on Mercy Haven's top floor. Sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Designer flowers adorned the nightstand, their fragrance mingling with antiseptic. His mind replayed fragments through a haze of pain medication. The crash, the searing pain, and strong hands holding his. Those eyes, steady amid chaos, promising sunrise. Marcus Reynolds, his chief of staff, entered with a tablet and forced smile, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit despite the early hour. Marcus represented everything the Hart brand cultivated: precision, control, power. "The board's been notified with our approved statement. We're keeping details minimal." Alexander shifted, wincing at the pull of stitches. "The man who helped me before the doctor arrived." Who was he? Marcus checked his notes. Just a security guard, night shift, nothing noteworthy. Just a security guard. The phrase hung uncomfortably. Alexander remembered the man's confident movements, how the medical team had looked at him with surprise and respect. "Find him, I want to speak with him." Later that afternoon, Tibet. Mason stood awkwardly in Alexander's room, security badge gleaming against his uniform. Without the previous night's urgency, Alexander noticed more, the military posture. the watchful eyes that missed nothing, hands that had likely seen more trauma than most surgeons. "Mr. Hart," Mason nodded respectfully. Alexander studied him. "You saved my life." Mason shifted his weight. "Just did what needed doing, sir." Marcus cleared his throat from the corner. "Mr. Hart, our PR team suggests we keep this incident low profile. The board is concerned about market perception if news spreads that I was saved by a security guard instead of a surgeon." Alexander finished, voice sharper than intended. Mason's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. A familiar look of someone being reduced to their uniform, their title, their surface. "We can arrange appropriate compensation for your discretion." Marcus continued, producing an envelope. "We appreciate your understanding of the sensitivity." "I don't want your money, Mom," Mason interrupted, voice quiet but firm. The room stilled. "I didn't help you for a payday." Alexander's gaze hardened. "Everyone wants something." Mason looked at him directly. "Just live better, Mr. Hart. That's payment enough." He turned and walked out, leaving Alexander staring after him. That evening, in a modest apartment in Dorchester, Mason helped Lily with homework at their small kitchen table. The space was clean but worn, secondhand furniture, carefully mended curtains, walls decorated with Lily's colorful drawings alongside a framed photo of Mason in military dress with his late husband, David. "Dad, will I need an inhaler forever?" Lily asked, touching the medication beside her school books. Mason brushed hair from her forehead. "The doctors are working on it, sweetheart. We'll figure it out together." He didn't mention the medical bills piling up, or how his VA benefits barely covered her treatments. He'd sold his service medals months ago, all except the silver star David had been so proud of. The next morning, Lily burst through the door after school, excitement radiating from her. Dad, we got a whole new computer lab with tablets for everyone." The principal said it was donated by the Hart Foundation. Mason looked up from sorting bills, surprise washing over his features. Outside their window, a sleek black car pulled away from the curb. Inside sat Alexander Hart, watching through tinted glass, his gaze lingering before the vehicle merged into traffic. Perhaps some debts were paid in different currencies after all. The Four Seasons Boston glittered with chandeliers and champagne flutes for Mercy Haven Hospital's annual charity gala. Mason stood near the back wall, uncomfortable in his formal security uniform among designer gowns and tuxedos. His collar felt too tight, his shoes too shiny on the marble floor as Boston's elite mingled around him. The main sponsor, Hart Foundation, had transformed the ballroom into an elegant showcase of philanthropy. Across the room, Alexander Hart commanded attention in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, shaking hands with senators and CEOs. The past month had seen his complete recovery, with business publications praising his remarkable resilience following the accident. Mason remained invisible, just as he preferred. His job tonight was simple: check badges, watch exits, fade into the background. The space between him and Alexander might as well have been miles rather than yards, different worlds occupying the same room. Alexander took the stage, his confident voice carrying through state-of-the-art speakers. Hart Foundation is proud to pledge $5 million toward expanding Mercy Haven's emergency services. Applause rippled through the crowd as he outlined his vision for medical access throughout Massachusetts. The evening progressed predictably until Senator William Montgomery, a 70-year-old fixture in state politics, collapsed near the dessert table. His face turned alarming blue, no pulse detectable beneath his bow tie. Panic spread like wildfire through the crowd, gasps and screams rising above the sudden silence of the music. Mason moved without hesitation, crossing the room in fluid strides. He dropped to his knees beside the senator, checking airways, finding no pulse. With mechanical precision, he began chest compressions, counting under his breath. "Someone call 911. Now." His voice cut through the case, directing a nearby waiter to grab the aide from the wall. He continued CPR with textbook precision. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. Repeat. His focus never wavered, sweat beading on his forehead as he fought for the senator's life. After 45 seconds that felt like hours, Montgomery gasped, eyes fluttering open. Mason remained calm, speaking softly. "Sir, stay still. Help is coming. You're okay." The crowd exhaled collectively. Paramedics arrived minutes later, taking over as Mason stepped back, straightening his jacket. Only then did he notice Alexander Hart standing at the edge of the crowd, watching him with an unreadable expression. Later that night, Alexander sat alone in his office, scrolling through Mason Riley's military record on his computer screen. Silver Star for Valor, 3 tours. 23 soldiers saved during an ambush in Kandahar province. Honorable discharge in 2018 after the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to care for his ailing husband David, who later died in a car accident. The screen showed a photograph of Mason in full dress uniform, chest adorned with medals, standing proudly beside David. Their expressions showed the quiet dignity of men who had sacrificed much for a country that had only recently acknowledged their right to exist as a family. Alexander's fingers hovered over another file, Mason's application for adoption of Lily, a child with asthma and no other family after her parents died in the same accident that claimed David's life. Mason had fought through mountains of paperwork and prejudice to give her a home. For the first time, Alexander saw beyond the uniform to the man who wore it, not just a security guard, but a decorated soldier, a grieving widower, a devoted father, someone who had saved lives on battlefields and hospital floors without seeking recognition. Alexander closed his laptop, a decision crystallizing in his mind. He had judged a man solely by his title, never bothering to look deeper. Tomorrow, he would correct that mistake. Morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows at Hart Technologies headquarters as Alexander called for an immediate press conference. His PR team scrambled frantically, exchanging alarmed glances as they gathered in the glass-walled conference room overlooking Boston's financial district. "What's this about?" whispered Patricia, head of communications, clutching her tablet. "We have nothing prepared. No talking points, no media strategy." Alexander straightened his tie, a calm resolve settling over his features. "I don't need talking points for the truth." An hour later, cameras and microphones filled the company's auditorium. Reporters murmured in confusion about the unscheduled announcement as Alexander took the podium. No notes in hand, no teleprompter guidance. "Last month, I was in a car accident," he began simply. The room quieted. "I nearly died. The person who saved my life wasn't a surgeon, wasn't a paramedic, wasn't someone with a prestigious title." He paused, letting the words settle. "It was a father, a single dad, working night shifts as a hospital security guard." Whispers spread through the assembled journalists. Alexander continued, voice growing stronger. "His name is Mason Riley, and I need to tell you who he really is." At Mercy Haven Hospital, Mason stood in the cafeteria helping Lily with math homework. His phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from coworkers. Confused, he glanced up at the cafeteria television and froze. There on every news channel was Alexander Hart, speaking about him. Mason Riley is a decorated combat medic who served 3 tours, earned the Silver Star for Valor, and saved dozens of lives under enemy fire. The cameras flashed to Mason's military photograph on the screen. Lily gasped, "Dad, that's you!" Around the cafeteria, staff members turned toward Mason, their expressions shifting from surprise to admiration. On screen, Alexander's voice cracked slightly. "When I asked him to stay quiet about saving me, I didn't know who he was, what he'd sacrificed, what he'd given." Alexander looked directly into the camera. "Mason Riley, if you're watching, I was wrong. You reminded me that leadership isn't about power or control. It's about service. It's about showing up when no one's watching." Mason stood motionless, unable to process what was happening as the press room erupted in applause. Alexander wiped moisture from his eyes. Mason Riley is the kind of person this world needs more of, and I was too blind to see it. 3 days later, Alexander visited the hospital, finding Mason in the security office completing paperwork. The space between them had changed, no longer defined by status, but by an uncomfortable truth neither could ignore. "I wanted to apologize properly," Alexander said, closing the door. "Not for cameras, not for publicity, just to you." Mason leaned back in his chair. "You already did that publicly. That was for the world. This is for you." Alexander sat down, expensive suit out of place among filing cabinets and schedule boards. "I judged you by your uniform, not your character. My brother was gay." The words seemed to surprise even Alexander. "He killed himself because our family couldn't accept it. I built walls to survive in a ruthless world, but I've become part of the problem." Mason's expression softened at the unexpected confession. Alexander continued, "The Hart Foundation would like you to become our safety and medical preparedness advisor. Part-time, flexible hours, excellent compensation." "Lily needs stability," Mason replied cautiously. Later that week, Alexander visited the community park where Mason brought Lily after school. He watched from a distance as she carefully applied a bandage to another child's scraped knee. "You're a little medic too, huh?" Alexander approached, smiling. Lily looked up, recognition in her eyes. "Dad says helping people is our family business." Alexander laughed genuinely, perhaps for the first time in years. He offered Lily a small silver bracelet, engraved with "Be brave, little healer." "Because I think you're going to save a lot of people someday," he explained. "Just like your dad." Lily hugged him impulsively, her small arms wrapping around his waist. Alexander stood frozen, then slowly returned the embrace, realizing how long it had been since anyone had touched him without agenda. 1 year later, Boston's South End neighborhood bustled with activity as crowds gathered for the grand opening of the Riley Center for Community Healing. The modern facility, its glass and brick facade gleaming in morning sunlight, stood as testament to transformation, both of the abandoned warehouse it once was and the men who created it. Veterans in uniform formed a line of honor near the entrance, many with tears streaming down weathered faces. Families with rainbow pins and pride flags gathered on the lawn, some holding signs thanking Mason by name. News cameras captured the moment as Alexander Hart approached the podium, wearing a simple gray suit without designer labels or corporate armor. "A year ago, I almost died," he began, voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "The man who saved me wasn't famous. He wasn't wealthy. He was simply good." Alexander looked to his right, where Mason stood watching from the back. "Mason Riley, please come up here." Please. Mason walked slowly to the stage, visibly uncomfortable with the attention. The fitted navy suit he wore contrasted sharply with the security uniform of their first encounters. "I'm not used to microphones," he said quietly. "I'm better with heartbeats." Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. Mason continued, voice growing stronger. "Healing isn't just for the wounded. It's for everyone who still cares enough to try." He looked directly at Alexander. "We all carry pain, scars, regrets. The question is what we do with them. Do we build walls or bridges?" Lily darted onto the stage clutching a drawing, Mason kneeling beside Alexander, a glowing heart between them. Written in crayon across the bottom, "Dad giving jacket to Mr. Hart, heart shining." The crowd's response was immediate and emotional. Alexander stepped forward with a small wooden box. Inside, resting on velvet, lay a custom medal engraved with words only Mason would understand. "Please don't make it fast. Stay." Alexander's voice trembled slightly. "You told me I'd see the sunrise. I've seen hundreds since that night, every single one because of you." She pinned the medal to Mason's chest with gentle hands. "Don't fade into the background again. The world needs people like you." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I need people like you." Mason looked at her, really looked at her, the professional distance between them long since dissolved. "Some pains are worth feeling," he said softly. Alexander smiled through tears. "Yes, they really are." The crowd erupted in applause, but Mason only saw three things: Lily beaming with pride, Alexander finally free from her self-made prison, and the sunrise breaking golden through the clinic windows behind them. Have you ever judged someone based on their uniform or title, only to discover the extraordinary person beneath? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones we never think to look for until they save us. Subscribe to Hart Stories if you believe compassion is the quietest form of strength, because in a world that celebrates fame and fortune, we remember that heroes don't move on from saving. They just find new reasons to keep doing it.